Good evening, everyone. Severe Other Team 9 meteorologist Nathan Schott joining you for this edition of Nate at 8. And coming up, we're going to be talking about a cold Thanksgiving. Some flurries, snow showers in the mix, but ultimately the big story, just how cold it's going to be for Thanksgiving going into Friday. So that being said, should be dealing with minimal impacts when it comes to road conditions, and more of the impact again felt with just how cold it's going to be, as we're going to track some gusty winds, of course, adding even more of a chill to the air, much like for this afternoon and evening, just continuing into Thursday and Friday. So a lot to break down for this edition of Nate at 8. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. So coming up, there's flurries, snow showers. We'll map it out with our future casts, break down those temperatures. Again, just how cold it's going to be, not only for Thursday, Friday, but even going into next week. Also going to track some gusty winds that we're going to be looking at as well. Starting off with those current temperatures across the area falling in the 30s. This is coming off of highs that we had earlier today that were in the 50s. And what a difference we had from this morning into this afternoon. Temperatures dropped off sharply with that cold front passage. And of course, what helped usher in that cold air is some gusty winds, especially with that line that we had with that frontal passage, and some gusty showers this afternoon. That's when we saw those highest wind gusts, and still dealing with wind gusts still in excess of 30 miles per hour, continuing now in the overnight hours. But earlier we had gusts even up to 48 at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 38 Wintersville, 37 New Philadelphia, 35 Littleton, Cambridge, Carrollton coming in at 32 mile per hour, some of the highest wind gusts measured so far across the area. Looking at those wind gusts right now, even ramping up a little bit. Check that out. We may have to up that total there to Cambridge, 44 mile per hour wind gusts. Wow. Most locations have been under that threshold so far going throughout this evening. It's been more on the order of 30 to 40. So that's been our range going into a lot of this evening. 31 mile per hour wind gusts currently Wheeling, 24 New Philadelphia, 20 Wintersville. Still dealing with some gusty winds, and that'll just carry over likely as we go into tomorrow. And again, even into Friday, still going to see a breeze. So wind chills, a big factor during the stretch, makes it feel like it's in the 20s with our temperatures in the 30s. And we'll watch as these wind gusts are still upwards of 30, 35 miles per hour overnight into tomorrow, and then up to about 30 miles per hour for Friday. Friday night into Saturday is our next period where the winds will finally diminish. So up until Friday night, just look for some gusty winds, but by Saturday morning, we're going to finally be greeted then with some much lighter winds, and in general, some lighter winds to start off the weekend. So how cold will it feel? Well, for tomorrow morning, waking up, it's going to feel like it's in the teens for us for tomorrow morning for Thanksgiving. The warmest it's going to feel for your Thanksgiving, 20s. Yeah. Similar to where we're at right now. It's not a bad preview from what it feels like right now for how it's going to feel for tomorrow evening for Thanksgiving. Then going into Friday, if you're heading out doing shopping, those wind chills likely even lower. We could see mid-lower teens and more mid-upper teens tomorrow morning, but for Friday morning, it could be more mid-lower teens, that range of those wind chill values if you're heading out early to shop Friday morning. From there, then wind chills still 20s, again into Friday afternoon. Like I mentioned, then once we get into Saturday is when we notice that wind chill start to lose more of its effect, as those winds will finally diminish and become light to possibly even calm going into Saturday morning. That light wind around then for our Saturday before winds do likely pick back up Sunday. So clouds and radar not only dealing with the blustery conditions, those cold temperatures, but also some flurries, some light snow showers, and generally some flurries. That's what we're going to be dealing with coming our way as we do extend going throughout not only tonight, but even as we go into Thursday and I think Friday as well, that we can deal with some flurries at times, some snow showers. But again, what we do see likely is not going to be enough to account for any travel headaches, at least for our area. Now, notice in the future cast where the snow is going to be more consistent and can be heavier is going to be locations towards our north. So especially as we do look into locations Youngstown and north, into northeast Ohio, up towards Cleveland. You can even extend this into the northwestern portion of PA, up towards Erie, PA. These areas, that's more into that traditional snow belt of Lake Erie, right? With these lake effect snow, more in that snow belt. That's the area to watch. We could pile up some high snowfall totals into northeast Ohio, extending into northwest PA, where totals could even reach up to a foot in some locations. So that's where the significant travel impacts are going to be locally, right? If you're traveling north, especially north of Youngstown, towards Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, Northwest PA, up towards Erie, PA. If you're traveling in those areas, just be prepared. The snow's taking hold even tonight, and here over the next 2 days, Thursday into Friday, can pile up a lot of snow during that time period. So that's the only anywhere near us. That's the only spots to watch anywhere near the tri-state area. That would be impactful when it comes to snow. Again, outside of that, still some flurries, a couple snow showers, but we're looking at likely little or no snow accumulation. As we advance this, there's a lot of cloud cover continuing into Friday. And again, as you can see at times, some snow showers, some flurries, but nothing impactful likely coming our way. By Friday night to Saturday morning, then, is when those flurries, snow shower tapers off. Again, we mentioned that's when the winds diminish and when we likely see some clearing. And this can spell for trouble for those morning lows on Saturday. And that combination, especially if we can see skies clear, if we can get those winds to calm, watch out, because we can get very close to the teens. Now, that being said, again, wind chill's less of an effect, but temperatures themselves could be nearing the teens into Saturday morning. So it's going to be a cold, quite possibly the coldest morning so far for the season ahead for Saturday morning. So just be prepared for that cold start to the weekend. And if you haven't done it yet, of course, don't forget to winterize, your home, right? Make sure that you've got that garden hose unhooked and cover up that outdoor spigot, right, and prevent any of your pipes from freezing from the outside in, right? So make sure you've winterized your home, especially with the potential there. The temperatures are getting a real hard freeze, well in the 20s, and again, possibly nearing the teens, especially some of those cold spots across the area into Saturday mornings. It's going to be a cold start to the weekend. Again, when it comes to snow, little or none. If we're dealing with anything measurable, it's likely, less than even a half of an inch. And it's little or none. Maybe at times a dusting, at most maybe a coating. And again, not much. It'll be scattered in addition to the snow showers and flurries, but there's little or none. We're not anticipating the snow to be a big story here the next 2 days. What will be, all right, the temperatures, those gusty winds, it's going to be the bigger story. And the coldest Thanksgiving for us here in the Ohio Valley in over 5 years. We have to go back to 2018 for both the wind chills and our temperatures. Back in 2018, wind chill got down to the mid-teens, and our temperature didn't even make it to 30. The high was 29 degrees. Now, for this Thanksgiving tomorrow, the forecasted high is expected to get in the 30s, but not much above freezing, likely towards the mid-30s. Mid-lower 30s can be the range for tomorrow afternoon, coming off of lows in the upper 20s, so not much warming, right? Handful of degrees difference from the morning into the afternoon hours tomorrow. Cold, but the coldest since 2018, 2019, we were in the 30s, 38, but we're expected to be colder than that. So 2018, when it comes to those wind chills, mid upper teens. So that's on par with 2018. 2018 was the most recent year when we saw wind chills to that extent. And this is over the past 20 years for us. And we had wind chills. Check out 2005, 20 years ago, -2. Ooh, for a wind chill. Yeah, quite cold. And that high temperature was 36 that day, but that wind chill was something else to get into the negative wind chills. -2 in 2005 was that wind chill 20 years ago. So at least it's not that cold, but nonetheless, a cold Thanksgiving coming our way. And after shopping on Friday, don't forget Steubenville lights up the night. And again, nothing impactful weather-wise. At this point, going into Friday night is when, again, these flurries likely start to taper off. Could even start to see a little clearing and hopefully start to see winds diminish. Probably not by much. It's probably a little bit past this. It's probably more overnight Friday than Friday evening. So I'd still be prepared that it's going to be blustery, cold. I think it's more after Steubenville lights up the night Friday evening that we'll really start to see those winds diminish. It's going to feel like it's in the 20s. Temperature is close to 30. Cold, right? Cold. Still deal with a bit of gusty wind, but outside of that impacting Steubenville lights of the night, we're not dealing with any, major snow or anything going into Friday night to impact plans around them. So as we jump into our 9+1 day forecast, let's get to comments. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Austin, good evening. Today was crazy cold, windy, and chilly. The wind was so cold that it was ripping right through me, even though I was wearing a coat. It rained a bit around 11. It's sleet around 7. Thanks for the report there, Austin. And now we're even dealing with some of those flurries, a couple, spotting some snow now going into the overnight hours. It's more scattered, but we are seeing it present across our area. Renee says everyone's electricity went out in St. Clairsville. Our electric was out for about 45 minutes. Oh my gosh. Well, so it's back on. Hopefully it's back on. It was out for 45 minutes. Never fun to lose power, is it? And Ozzy says, question for Snowbird from 1960 through 2024. What's the biggest blizzard to ever hit the United States? The United States as a whole. I think for us, a lot of us think back to the blizzard of 1950 was something else, not in the range, but 1993 was a significant snowstorm for us here in the Ohio Valley. That would probably be my answer off the top of my head there, Austin. The blizzard of 1993, significant, talking about measuring snow in feet across our area. Of 1993. It was an impressive snowstorm then. Joe, good evening. Good evening there, Joe. Thanks as always for tuning in. And Beverly says, I don't miss it. Talking about that cold and snow, I'm imagining. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you there, Joe. You as well. And I hope everyone tuning in has a good Thanksgiving. Kyle says, are we going to be starting December below normal for temps? It does look like that way, Kyle. It looks like these cold temperatures that have been ushered in for this evening will just continue. There's not much warm up that looks to be in place going into the first week of December. And, as we do look ahead into that first week of December, it's interesting. Now, it's coming up tomorrow. So we had our shortened edition at 5 with the winter outlook, but our full half-hour special is coming up tomorrow. I believe it's airing at 10:30. So if you missed that short segment earlier, tune in for that, because I actually break down. I have an interesting statistic on the first week of December. And there's a pretty strong correlation with the first week of December and how the rest of winter plays out when it comes to temperatures. I found a pretty interesting correlation. I don't want to spoil it, but definitely tune into that. And, that being said, if it's airing after Nate at 8 for tomorrow, we'll be able to I'll further go into it. I'll be off Friday, but we'll come back early next week and we can take that deep dive. We can really dive into the winter forecast and share some of those statistics again that I had found if you're not able to tune in this evening coming up here on Monday for that next edition of Nate at 8 following Thanksgiving. So we'll take a deeper dive and share more of my thoughts and go into it even more. Again, we'll much more in depth from what we had earlier this evening coming up tomorrow. Going into tomorrow night, we have again a whole half-hour special diving into a lot of different aspects, and not only the forecast, but some of what goes into the forecast, some of the mechanisms that's driving this. Looking at more of a long-term pattern and long-range forecasting, and how we go about forecasting long range and identifying patterns and driving mechanisms of the upcoming winter weather. So it's pretty cool. Much more in-depth look at that coming up tomorrow with our half-hour winter forecast special. But yeah, as we look ahead into next week, as you can see, it looks to be cold. I don't foresee a warm up even into that following weekend. It takes us through the first week then of December, and it looks like it's cold. It's a cold start. Normal highs upper 40s, and we're in the 30s for a lot of this. Our warmest day is likely coming on Sunday, which is another system that we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Austin says, excited to bake cinnamon rolls while watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That sounds like a great plan, Austin. That sounds like an amazing plan. He could have thought of anything better myself. It sounds great. So our 9+1 day forecast coming up on Sunday. We're watching temperatures are bumped up into the 40s. What's driving that warm up is going to be a low pressure system, and we're still fine tuning the track of this low. It does look like temperatures are cold enough initially as precipitation moves in that we can see a period of snow initially before we get a transition to just some chilly rain, a really cold rain into Sunday afternoon. And it's that low pulling in some milder air that can bump our highs back just into the 40s Sunday. We get behind that system, though, and we're right back in the 30s early on into next week. And we'll watch. Temperatures Saturday night is likely a case where we'll initially cool early on, upper 20s near 30, and we'll actually start to warm into daybreak Sunday. So temperatures are already climbing through the 30s into Sunday morning, and then we'll continue to climb up going into Sunday afternoon. Renee says, what time is the forecast special? Tomorrow, coming up 10:30. So we'll have our 5 to 5:30 6 to 6:30. So we'll have half-hour shows tomorrow. So for News 9 Live at 5, it's 5 to 5:30. News 9 at 6, normal, 6 to 6:30. News 9 at 10 on Fox 9 is 10 to 10:30. And then, of course, on Fox 9, then 10:30 to 11 will be our winter forecast special. And then we'll have News 9 tonight, 11 to 11:30. But it's worth mentioning tomorrow, we do have, airing, NFL, right? Football game. So it's the 11 o'clock will go out even later following the football game, whatever time that ends, at the earliest 11:30. So News 9 tonight will be after the fact, but on Fox 9 from 10:30 to 11 will be our winter forecast special. And we'll have, I believe it's Cooking Up a Storm. I believe Jeff is doing a Cooking Up a Storm that will air earlier than is that special from 5:30 to 6, I believe. And you may spot some special guest on that show. So it should be quite interesting. Always does a great job with those. That's for sure. Cooking Up a Storm. So with that system on Sunday, it does look like it's going to be a pretty impressive snowstorm across, especially the Midwest. Likely a lot of snow falling across northern Illinois, extending in the upper Midwest, and then, even into possibly portions of northern Indiana, but it's more northern Illinois, extending there to the upper Midwest, that this could be an impressive snowmaker for portions of the Midwest. And for us, it just looks like this, with the track of that low, it just looks like it's going to be supplying too much warm air, pulling in too much, mild temperatures or warmer air that to keep that precipitation type as all snow. It's something we're going to watch for. I think that system would have to take a pretty drastic dive further south for us to deal with all snow. I think that we're dealing with more of a mix, and temperatures look to at least get above freezing. And we can see, even if we do have some snow mixing in, that we can still deal with, less of an impact there if we can deal with those temperatures sitting, especially well above freezing, going throughout Sunday. So as it stands now, it doesn't look like anything crazy impactful for us, but, we'll start to further iron out the details as we get closer to Sunday. And again, maybe a brief period there Sunday morning, if we're still dealing with all snow and temperatures closer to freezing, that maybe there's a brief period where road conditions could be impacted. But it does look like, for the most part, if you're heading out later into the day Sunday, that thankfully doesn't look real impactful for the drive home if you're heading home for Thanksgiving later into Sunday. But again, we'll keep you posted for that as we get further into this week, getting closer to Sunday, and start to iron out the details and gain high confidence in the track of that system on Sunday. Now, Tuesday could be more interesting with that low pressure system that would be passing to our south. So in that situation on Tuesday, that low is not going to be pumping warm air into our area. And it's just a question of how far south it goes. If it goes too far south, then it takes all the snow with it. But if it could track just far enough north, then we could, I think overall better odds for some accumulation in terms of snow, maybe Tuesday compared to Sunday. So that is another system we're going to watch. There's one Sunday and one Tuesday. And again, that track on Tuesday is more favorable for us when it comes to the potential for some snow accumulation. And if it can track just so far enough north to get us in that swath of snow, then maybe some light accumulation. If it's tracking too far south, then maybe we just get some snow showers that don't amount too much. So something we'll watch for. Those are the two systems here near term we're watching for. The snow that we have for tomorrow into Friday, it's not much. Getting just enough moisture off the Great Lakes that we have some flurries around, a couple snow showers, but it's little or no snow accumulation. And snow is not the story. It's the cold and it's the winds the next 2 days, as is going to be more of the talk of Thanksgiving than any snow that we have. It's just we're all going to be gathered around and talking about how cold it is. Talking about how cold it is. That's going to be the talk from Thursday into Friday. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. I hope everyone has a safe, enjoyable Thanksgiving. I'll be here tomorrow to give you the latest on what to watch for as we go into the weekend. We'll have our next edition of Nate at 8, our Thanksgiving special coming up tomorrow evening. And again, our full extended winter forecast special coming up tomorrow night on Fox 9 at 10:30. And we'll have our shows about a half hour there, 5:30, 6:30, 10:30, and then again, the 11 tomorrow's after NFL football. And of course, be there for all those shows. You can catch me live then for the latest, and even tonight, News 9 at 10 on Fox 9. News 9 tonight at 11. And asking, how cold is it? It is cold. It is cold. It is bitter cold. That's how cold it is. Again, the coldest Thanksgiving for us in over 5 years, 7 to be exact. We have to go back to 2018, the last time we saw temperatures and wind chills this cold. Been a while. Definitely excessive this year when it comes to that cold coming our way for tomorrow. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night, Thanksgiving, and I'll see all of you, if you're not too busy, join me coming up for that Thanksgiving special tomorrow evening for the next edition of Nate at 8. Have a good night.